just traditionally, as we age, we are getting less fats, less of these fats and oils from our food. Unfortunately, it's just a nature of how it works. Interestingly, with less estrogen in the body, you have even less. So women get even less during menopause, which is really highly unfortunate. The other way that we are seeing them increase is through toxin exposure. Microplastics, forever chemicals, endocrine disruptors, chemicals that have been introduced in our environment. They are going in and separating out these phospholipids and causing these little holes in our cells where that stuff, these chemicals, these microplastics are then getting into the cells.
All right. Well, it's a real pleasure to have Jessica Kane on the show today. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
I had such a great conversation with you when we met, and you're just so passionate about cellular health and how it just affects every single system of our body. I want to know why you even got into this passion, like who's interested in cells and why you focus on it. Yeah, so much as a starting point for healing certain diseases.
I can't say it was my passion. It's in my blood. It's a family business. It's a third generation. It's a third generation passion is what I would say. My grandfather first became passionate about it in the 1980s when he had heavy metal toxicity and chronic fatigue. So he ran a steel factory and got super sick. And he was somebody who was really, really healthy. This was a man who his first job after he graduated from college when he was in his 20s was selling different juices down in Coral Gables in Florida. Like he was juicing in the 1950s.
Well, why was he so on? He was on the health. Was he a doctor or anything? You said he was working at
Just
a steel
into
factory.
it. No, just like a biohacker. Just really like an OG biohacker in the 1940s and 50s.
Was he a bodybuilder? Because bodybuilders are sometimes those OG.
Runner.
He's a runner.
He was a
Okay.
runner. And so he was running marathons. And in the 1980s, he was just collapsing. He wasn't able to actually do it. And he was like, something, I have to go deeper. I have to figure out what's going on here. And he just got really into it throughout the 70s and 80s, really. But he was somebody who, in our lives, was always taking us out to the farms, going to meet the farmers, looking for organic produce. And this is like way back in the day when, before any of this stuff was cool.
Yeah.
And he actually developed, you know how Mark Hyman has Function Health now?
I was just going to say he must have been like, no, not Mark Hyman. I'm thinking of Mark Sisson. Sorry. I was going to say
Yes,
he's been a
yes.
friend of Mark Sisson's, runner and healthy.
Older, older, but yes.
Yeah. But sorry, yeah,
And
Mark Hyman. Yeah, of
so
yes.
they have Function Health. BodyBio used to have the same relationship with LabCorp, where you could walk into a LabCorp in the 1990s and get what was called the BodyBio Wellness Report. So he was way ahead of his time on things.
Oh, wow.
And it was essentially the exact same thing as Function Health.
How interesting. Yes, so ahead of the curve. I interviewed yesterday Dr. David Rosensweet, who is a functional medicine doctor. Like he got his functional medicine training also in like the 80s. I'm like, wow.
Yeah, there was a tiny little group of people. They all knew each other.
Yeah,
And they were all really trying. They were all just very passionate researchers and individuals who were just obsessed with digging into what's going on and looking at the literature and how do we bring the literature forward to speed up that process that typically takes like 20 years between when something's developed and when something's researched.
So were you really close with is your grandfather, right?
Yeah, I was close with my grandfather. I got to spend time with him. I also personally experienced health struggles, not from a very young age, but from an age where I was very impacted. And so when I was 18 years old, my father, who was my grandfather's son, passed away.
Mm.
And it changed my health. It really did. I went from being like no issues kid to having all of these digestive issues, all of these problems. I was diagnosed with IBS, IBD. Eventually, I really couldn't even digest foods. And all of these gastroenterologists were trying to help me. I was doing endoscopy after endoscopy. I was left with nothing other than a couple drugs to take, which weren't helping. And I happened to be visiting my grandfather, and he said, let's go out. We're going to get Mexican food. I said, I can't eat that. And he said, oh, yeah, you can. You're just like me. Take this. You'll be fine. And I could eat. And I had no pain, and I had no acid reflux. And I was able to digest my food and it didn't feel like it was sitting in my stomach for hours. So that point, I think there's always like a point in biohacker health enthusiast lives, which we kind of shift our thinking. We are great until we're not. And the second your health kind of changes and when you find solutions that work for you, for me, it was just very inspiring to go deeper and to learn more. I'd studied biochemistry, so I was always interested in this field. but really understanding more of what my grandfather did was something that was very inspiring and really changed my life.
Oh, I can see now the connection. I'm so sorry about your father. Okay, you were so
Thank you.
young, and it's great that your grandfather was still there for you, and actually sounds like he passed the torch in many
Yeah.
ways. And I'm sorry for him to lose a child. That's like also horrible. Yeah, your grandfather's not still around, I meant,
He's not. No, he passed away a few years ago.
Oh my gosh. Wow. So a lot of trauma here, and I can understand how
Trauma is impacts our health in so many ways.
so much. And who doesn't have trauma, right? We all have different degrees of it and we all deal with it differently, but very often it manifests in disease. And in my studies in gerontology, which is the study of aging and longevity, always boiled down to stress. It just so many diseases were connected with that. And my favorite course was the mind body connection with Dr. Paul Nash. And just, I'll never forget, he's a brilliant professor. But when I took this course, and this is at USC, this is a research based university. And I saw the mind body connection on the curriculum. I was like, oh, this is not woo. This is
Yeah.
real deal. And I just absolutely was dumbfounded of the number of diseases that are connected with stress. And one of our projects, one of our papers we had to write was, okay, now pick a disease, pick any disease, and now make the connection with with the mind and what's happening in there. It was yeah, take your pick. So it is such a strong
Yes.
lever when it comes to our health. So
I'm so passionate about how trauma affects our cells. Cells are where disease occurs. There's nothing more root. We talk about root cause medicine and look for the root cause. There's nothing more root than a cell. And so for me, it was just life-changing to get to learn more about that relationship and how stress and how trauma and all of these things affect our lives in such different ways and activate certain things through epigenetics. And I think it's just a fascinating field.
let's start there too. How is this actual cell affected by the thoughts in your head or a trauma?
I think there's a really strong connection between it. I think that so many people that I have met have something impactful happen in their lives. For me, it was the death of my father. And what it causes, a shift in our central nervous system and in our ability to deal with stressors, in our anxiety levels and the serotonin and dopamine, all of these things change. It alters our gut. And ultimately, it starts to alter the way our cells are interacting with each other and the way our cells are computing things and breaking down things. And I think that we talk a lot about mitochondrial dysfunction as a driver of disease, but I think that there is a true impact that stress and trauma have on driving mitochondrial dysfunction. I think there's so many different ways that stress impacts your cells and your brain and your gut. And in general, we don't talk about it enough. And so it's a really interesting thing. And I think it's a relief to people who have been through things because we all have been through stuff, right?
Mhm.
But it's also taking the pressure off of thinking we tend to isolate into symptoms, right? Brain fog, fatigue, menopause, these different things. But actually there's stuff over it all that's causing so much of it. And so it's a bit of a relief once you can realize like, okay, this actually has a massive impact on my body. And I've seen it multiple times throughout my life. After pregnancy, when my hormones were off and the stress of having a new baby for the first time, postpartum anxiety and depression. I've seen it when I was overworked and I have three little kids running around running a business with my husband now and getting burnt out and how that impacts my health. And to this day, my digestion will be off. I will start to have acid reflux again. It goes back to all of those things. And I know, okay, you're overworked. Slow down, take care of yourself, practice self-care, get the right diet back in order, the right supplements, the right time in the sun, all of these things. So I can kind of bring myself back to that baseline.
Yeah. Yeah. And it has a lot to do with our hormones too. When we think about the stress and the stress hormones and the body pumping out all of these, the
Oh,
stress
yeah.
hormones and how that's infecting they always say, if you talk to a psychologist, they always say the body keeps the score. It never
Always.
forgets certain things and it's
Yeah.
just kind of embedded in there. But let's talk about menopause because you mentioned menopause and sometimes our brains do feel like they're short circuiting. We'll get a little bit of brain fog. So what do you think is happening here on a cellular level?
So when we talk about cellular health, some companies may talk about specific nutrients within the mitochondria, like urolithin A or CoQ10. When we talk about cellular health, we're really looking at something the research that drove my grandfather to get into this field and to develop the products was looking at the fats and oils that make up our cells and our organelle membranes. So we're specifically talking about these little bubbles that protect our cells. And taking you back to high school biology class, it's this bilipid layer that protects our cells and keeps the nucleus and the mitochondria and all of your organelles inside something and protects it from the extracellular matrix, which is all the crap that's circulating in our bodies. And so when we talk about cellular health, we're really talking about what are these fats and oils and how does the making of these from food, how does food source change these fats and oils in the body? How does aging change these fats and oils in the body? When we're born, you have extremely high levels of these bioactive lipids and fats. When we die, we have lower levels because the process by which we make these fats, called phospholipids, essential fatty acids, decreases as we age. One thing that I think has been extremely pervasive in our society is the 1980s, 1990s low fat craze. It's continued with us. It is getting better as the younger generations educate themselves more. But this avoidance of saturated fats and the replacement with oxidized vegetable oils, aka things like margarine or coffee creamers to avoid something like milk and all these chemicals that we've introduced into the body, it's disrupted the way we look at these healthy fats, and really kind of bringing them back into the body is where we stand and where we kind of set ourselves apart when we talk about cellular health. So when I talk about these bioactive lipids and fats, that's really what we're talking about. During menopause, something really interesting happens.
So
During menopause,
sorry,
there is, yeah, go ahead.
the bioactive lipids and fats. That's just to understand a little bit better what that means. That means these fats or that we're ingesting or our own fats that are in our bodies.
Both.
Both. And you're just saying that they're active, they have an impact on the body. Or is that
they are polyunsaturated fats. So when you think of fat, like butter, saturated fat, room temperature, solid. When you think of polyunsaturated fats, room temperature, not solid, liquid, those are the fats that we're talking about. So essential fatty acids, omega-6 and 3, and then phospholipids, which are typically something that you're getting from your food and you're ingesting through your body, and you're able to make those phospholipids for our cells.
Okay. And those phospholipids are the ones that are protecting the cell membrane?
Exactly. Yes, exactly.
The outer shell of a cell. So you guys have to think of a cell. And then, yes, if you remember, we have these fats around it and that protects the things that are inside and also maybe controls things that go in and out, correct?
Exactly. So when we have ample amounts of those, it protects the cell from the stuff that shouldn't be coming into the cell.
Yeah.
But as we age, we end up with leaky cells. We end up with these holes in which bad stuff can get in, and it's affecting our mitochondria, it's affecting our energy production, brain fog, fatigue, disease states, all sorts of things.
Where are we getting the holes? Where are the holes coming from? How do we get those holes?
Two main reasons that we're seeing, and one that's really growing fast. So the first reason is as you age, your ability to synthesize phospholipids decreases. So just traditionally, as we age, we are getting less fats, less of these fats and oils from our food. Unfortunately, it's just a nature of how it works. Interestingly, with less estrogen in the body, you have even less. So women get even less during menopause, which is really highly unfortunate. The other way that we are seeing them increase is through toxin exposure, microplastics, forever chemicals, endocrine disruptors, chemicals that have been introduced in our environment. They are going in and separating out these phospholipids and causing these little holes in our cells where that stuff, these chemicals, these microplastics are then getting into the cells.
Got it. Okay. Sorry to interrupt you. I just want to make sure
No, happy
we're all
to.
following
I can
along.
go on rants about this.
Yeah, no. So when we're talking about the menopausal woman and you're saying that as she's aging and generally she's taking in less fats, she's could be worried about her weight or something still on the 80s chain, unless she's keto or something. And then, but also when women go through menopause, not everybody, but a lot of women tend to gain weight as well for many reasons. And so I'm wondering then, and they tend to be a little bit more estrogen dominant, is what we would say. And there is some theories, as I don't think it's any proven, that your body's also creating these fat cells in order to make more estrogen, because that's coming from the fat cells as well. So it's, I don't know, it sounds like a catch-22, but I'm wondering then, so as she's generally losing her estrogen, let's say she's not producing it from her fat cells, and then she's getting more toxicity from the chemicals and the pesticides and plastics and all that, then she tends to get leaky cells. Instead of leaky gut, we've heard of leaky gut, but leaky cells, right?
Yeah, and there's more incidence of things like fatty liver disease, more incidence of various autoimmune disorders, much more higher levels of brain fog and fatigue, things like that. And oftentimes it can be driven by this impacted level of phospholipids that we're no longer getting from our food. So it's like our hormones are changing, it's adjusting all of these other biochemical processes in the body. And our take is just to keep going deeper. It's not just the hormones, it's all the other things that are being offset through that as well. So if you go to the actual root of what's really going on in the cells, supplying these healthy fats in the body helps so many other processes. And through that will help many of the other symptoms as well. So we
So
have countless women who say, my menopausal brain fog was lifted when I started taking BodyBio PC, because you're supplying these fats and oils that the brain cells need in order to do their jobs.
in what food sources what are good healthy fats that we should be eating in our diet?
The best is egg yolk, by far.
Egg
The
yolk.
best form of phospholipids from food comes from egg yolk.
Huh.
So remember the days of egg white omelets and egg whites? Get the yolk. That's the part that has what's healthy for your brain and your liver and your gut.
So how much would somebody need to eat? Like one a day or one in every couple of days?
I guess it really depends on the person. The other problem with the eggs is that they're also high in a different phospholipid called sphingomyelin, and that can kind of lead to heart disease as well. So you don't want to just go taking 10 egg yolks a day. But
Hmm.
I think a good healthy diet of starting your day with 2 egg yolks is very healthy.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
you're going to be adding in some phospholipids from a food source that's really great. Some other sources are soy, clean soy, organic soy, and organ meats are also a really great source. So if you eat liver, if you're eating heart, if you're eating some of these organ meats.
Oh, I love liver and organ meats.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. But there are people who don't. And there
Mm.
are people who maybe don't want to take the egg yolk or whatever it is for whatever reasons. So those are the main ones, the egg yolk and the organ meats.
Yes.
And what else can be protecting our cells then in terms of get that cellular health?
Another healthy fat are essential fatty acids. So we know so much about fish oil. We know to avoid, there's fish oils and omega-3.
Hmm.
And then we talk a lot about omega-6s being bad for you. And oxidized omega-6 in the form of canola oil and sunflower oil that's heated and served in a restaurant and fried in your fried food and all of those things. That is not good for you. Obviously, we say to avoid that because the heat damages these very delicate essential fatty acids. Essential fatty acids are actually not produced in the body at all. So EPA, DHA, LA, and ALA. None of these are produced in the body. We need to get them from our diet. That's why they're called essential fatty acids. And where we take a little bit of a different stance is the ratio that your cells needs is 4 parts omega-6 to 3 part or to 1 part omega-3.
Hmm.
And so most people say, no, I'm way too high in omega-6. We actually say you actually need omega-6 for the fluidity and the structure of your cells. Essential fatty acids keep your cells looking like a plumped up grape instead of a shriveled raisin, essentially. And so they are a really important fat. We often hear people say, well, I eat cold pressed olive oil. Well, olive oil is omega-9. It's oleic acid. It's actually not going to supply the 2 essential fatty acids that are most important, which is omega-6 and 3. And they are critically important, these essential fatty acids, for hormone production, hormone regulation, all of those things.
Yeah, no, of course. Yeah, we definitely get fats. And so if somebody says, well, okay, I'm eating fish or I eat salmon, seafood, that's really great for those omega
Right?
3s, right? And then
Yep.
what kinds of foods would be like, we know most people would say, okay, omega 6s, we got too much in the American standard diet because we're getting it from our processed foods. But what about healthy omega 6s? Where can we get some of our nutrients from there? Which foods would supply that?
Some of the best nuts for that are walnuts, actually. And then people aren't afraid of taking evening primrose oil. Evening primrose oil is a great source of gamma-linoleic acid, which is an omega-6. We
Mm.
make a supplement called balance oil, which is omega-6 and 3 in that 4-to-1 ratio, specifically for your cells to really get in the right fats. And it's cold pressed, it's organic, it's treated in the right way so that it's not oxidized. But it's very hard to get omega-6s actually from food.
It's hard
The
to get
right time. The
from
right time.
healthier food, I guess, right?
Yes,
Mm,
exactly.
okay. Oh my gosh. Okay. I have heard you speak about something called phosphatidylcholine and how it helps protect and it repairs the cell membranes because you're very passionate about these cell membranes. Like we don't want the holes in them. We want them to be strong. We probably want them to be flexible and capable of doing many things. So I understand that estrogen helps the cell membranes to keep them flexible. So how does these two compounds interact with each other, and then what happens to this relationship as we go through this menopause transition?
So hormones are the messengers that signal brain cells to regulate mood, memory, focus, stress, all of these things. They only work if the cell membrane is intact and healthy. And so the cell membrane is made up of 50% of the cell membrane is phosphatidylcholine, and then the other ancillary phospholipids.
What
And so
is the other one? Like what's the
sure. So it's the main phospholipid in our cell membrane is phosphatidylcholine,
yeah?
and the others are phosphatidylserine, phosphatidylinositol, and phosphatidylethanolamine.
Oh, okay. Okay. So there's three other ones, but the main one is phosphatidylcholine.
It's a mouthful. That's why we just
Yeah.
call it PC.
Just call it PC. Okay, we'll call it PC from now on.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe we should also explain what other functions PC does. Is
So many. One of my favorite researchers on this topic is Dr. Bruce Lipton. And I don't know if you've ever read his book, The Biology of Belief, but it's a fabulous book. He really talks a lot about how our DNA is our genetic blueprint. It's an architectural drawing, but it actually doesn't have any actions within the cell. All the actions that the cell takes, all the actions from the mitochondria and the nucleus and all of these things telling everything what to do, actually happen within the cell membrane and the cells communicating with other cells in the body. And so you need that cell membrane to be healthy so that neurotransmission is working. I know you recently had Dr. Terry Walls on, and she's so passionate about this as well within her work with MS because the cell membrane gets disrupted and neurotransmission gets harder and harder, particularly with autoimmune diseases. And so it's really important to keep that cell membrane intact and resilient and healthy as we age because our cells are then able to communicate better with the other cells so that they can perform the actions of the cell.
okay, so super important then. And so then you said with age as well, and we're losing all of these functions. We could probably make a whole list of everything that goes away when we age. But I
Yeah.
would imagine like hormones, and I'm probably guessing mainly estradiol or estrogens are having this key role in the cell membrane matrix. But
Yes.
are they sort of speaking with each other? Do you think that the PC is going down because of the estrogen is going down, or
Well, I think
something
it
else?
becomes harder to produce enough PC when the PEMT pathway is disrupted during menopause. So you have a disruption in estrogen levels, and then the downstream effect is that it decreases PC levels for sure. PC rebuilds the cell membrane, and hormones need that membrane so they can bind and signal effectively. So there is a very strong correlation between the two.
So, do you have any research or know of any research that is if a woman is taking estrogen or estradiol or any kind of hormone therapy, that her cell membranes would be healthier or she'd have more PC in her body? I don't know how you measure
I
the.
don't think it works in that way. I think the pathway by which you are getting the phospholipids from food is increased. But I need to look at that specifically because we only look at it from the part of if you take exogenous phospholipids, if you're taking our product BodyBio PC, it increases phospholipid levels in the cells. And therefore, you will have better brain function, better memory, better retention, better recall, things like this. We don't look at it from the position of if you're taking exogenous, if you're doing hormone replacement therapy, how does that affect levels of PC?
Yeah, I'd love to
Be
know.
interesting though.
But I'd say, and I would be interesting to have a study in if they were to take body PC, which is that product you were talking about, and on hormone, and then versus without hormones, like just
Yeah,
to
that'd
see
be
the
great to look
interplay
at.
with that. That
Yeah,
would
I
be.
know that they've done some great studies. There's a great study on dietary choline requirements
Mhm.
of women in menopause and talking about how phosphatidylcholine is catalyzed by this PEMT pathway, which is induced by estrogen. So I'm sure there are some studies that have been done on it because the lower the estrogen concentration, postmenopausal women are susceptible to a higher risk of so many different symptoms and organ dysfunction because of the low levels of phosphatidylcholine.
Oh my God. Well, they're all, everything's connected, which
It
is,
is.
really. And you mentioned something about choline and how that's really important for women going through menopause.
Yeah,
Just
so
choline in general.
phosphatidylcholine is just it's an optimized version of choline.
Oh,
So it will increase levels of choline in the body when they are needed. It's basically a liposomal choline, if you will.
oh, okay. Now I understand. I thought there were two separate things. It's just kind of turbocharged choline.
It is.
And choline is in the egg yolks. Is that in terms
Yes.
of natural
Yes.
food source?
Yes.
Okay, okay, okay. I got it. Oh, how interesting. Okay, so then we need to up our game with our eggs and with some
Definitely.
liver, maybe some fish, get our omegas, and then get your PC in there as well. That's the way I would approach it as a biohacker. Just like let's shoot it out from all angles. But do you
I
think
agree.
people can get enough just from food?
I don't think you can anymore. I've just seen it time and time again. And looking at all these symptoms that we're experiencing, I had a great panel with a wonderful women's health doctor in New York last year. And she's a Yale MD, Harvard Medical School. And she sat in front of this group of women and she said, we should not be experiencing perimenopause. We shouldn't be experiencing menopause symptoms to the extent that we are. It's our environment and it's the assault that we've had on our cells that have caused us to have these massive disruptions and these crazy symptoms that we're seeing these days. And so I find it interesting that we're building entire companies and different marketing campaigns on perimenopause. And I'm just sitting here thinking, this is crazy. We actually shouldn't be doing this. We should be
Hmm.
talking about the root cause of what's causing all of this in the first place.
Yeah, super interesting. Okay, so we can't get enough from food. We don't have to just let them with it.
Sorry.
Yeah, but I'm wondering in terms of the cell membrane, if I don't know if there's an age markers or anything like that, but how would you know that or get a sign that your cell membranes are being compromised?
I would probably, so we are running our first clinical trial to actually look at like specific biomarkers that you can look at. There are certain like levels of inflammatory conditions and inflammation that you can see. It's not an easy test. It's not the type of test that you look at your lab core markers from your primary care and you can say, yep, I'm low in phospholipids. You have to go with symptomatology. So you have to look at, are you experiencing brain fog, fatigue, hormonal disruptions, autoimmune disease, things like that. And there is a foundational level of taking care of your cells that is critical with any of these symptoms. And so we really, and my grandfather really felt when he developed the product that this is a product that can benefit every single person on this planet because our world is changing and our bodies are changing, and we have not fully evolved to be able to deal with the onslaught of toxins that we're experiencing.
Mhm.
And so I think it's really just about looking at the symptoms and saying, if you want to optimize, which is why when you look at the reviews for the product, you see so many people say, I have better brain function, better recall, I can remember phone numbers again. And I think because we're just devoid of these healthy fats.
Hmm. How is somebody supposed to differentiate? Let's say a woman's listening now and she's got the brain fog and she's having some of these typical menopause symptoms. Some people would say, well, it's the loss of your hormones. Other people say, no, you don't have enough minerals, or you don't have enough magnesium, or you don't have NAD, or like spermidine. There's so many things out
There
there.
are.
You're low in X. And X could be like anything. And in our world, like what we do is in biohacking, we're like, let's just go through the list one by one.
No.
Let's just see if it helps us with whatever it is. So, is there a way we could just cut to the chase and say, yeah, it's got to be phospho, the phosphatidylcholine?
It's not so much that it's about the phosphatidylcholine as it is about your cellular functioning. And so the 40,000 doctors, functional doctors that we work with all over the world, really understand that there is a level of foundational wellness that we're missing in our cells. And so if you can start with just two products to build up that cellular resilience, which are PC and balance oil, from there you can layer on the other therapies and the other biohacks. But if you are taking NAD and your cell membranes are not functioning properly, you actually cannot pull in that very large NAD molecule. It's not going to do anything to your cells. And so there's just this level of start with this and build on top of it that I think is what has made the product so popular amongst functional doctors, because they've seen that when you start with taking care of the cells and making sure the cells are getting the nutrients that they need, then layering the other things, the magnesium, the minerals, the NAD, the urolithin A, the mitochondrial supports on top of that are much more effective.
I got it. It's always like this biohacking pyramid that I always talk about where like,
Yeah.
foundation, you get your diet, your exercise, your sleep, stress, and all the things that we know are good. And then we can layer on the fun stuff, the supplements or the sauna
Yes.
and then I don't know, HRT or
Peptides, whatever you want to throw at it.
but if,
Yeah.
yeah, and I always think, at least what I've been seeing, witnessing over the years, is that when you don't have this foundation, the middle and the top tiers, this pyramid, like they either don't work or they don't work that well. And so
Yes.
what you're saying is body PC is the foundation. Like then you
Yes.
can go play around with all that other stuff. If it's not resolved 100%, you just get those cells really healthy, get that membrane flexible or strong or whatever it is it needs to be. And then if you should be already feeling a lot better. And then you can add in all the things that you want.
And
Did I get that
I've
right?
had long conversations with biohackers like Dave Asprey about this. And he's written in most of his books, he has chapters and sections about phospholipids and the importance of it because he really understands that role that the cell membrane plays and how important it is. I think a lot of biohackers are able to get probably enough from their food source, but they eat like crazy people. I mean, they're really extreme, some of these people.
Mhm.
So for me, I think it's just, and also I even use it for my children. I think that we're all affected by these toxins. So how can we make ourselves more resilient? And that's just a goal of mine personally.
Oh, cool. Oh, well, that's interesting to know. So then what does the science say? Because you dig real deep into the science. What does it say about phospholipids and cardiovascular disease prevention, especially in post-menopausal women?
My grandfather was working on this before he passed away, and he was really passionate about coming out with a test that could look at the phospholipid levels and tell the type of plaque buildup. And there's a direct correlation. Phospholipids actually go in, particularly PC, goes in and helps to regulate all different cardiovascular markers. It's fascinating. There's even IV drugs. There's one in the US called Plaquex that are phosphatidylcholine IVs that are used to break down plaque in the arterial walls.
You can
So
do
it's
that? That's amazing.
yeah, it's amazing. You can look it up. It's called Plaquex. They have some wonderful research about it. But it's interesting to see because most people who start taking PC will notice that if you're looking from a functional perspective versus an allopathic, the levels of your LDL, HDL, cholesterol, triglycerides will start to normalize.
Incredible. Okay, I'm going to put it to the test because I have
Yeah.
high cholesterol that I'm not supposed to worry about, but
I
yeah.
also don't. I think higher cholesterol is critically important as we age for brain. I think it's the relationship between each of those and looking at the particle size and taking a functional approach to looking at all these levels as opposed to what you see from the allopathic community.
Yeah. What if someone is in that? So we have these interesting studies, millions of people showing that, and I think this is a meta-analysis showing that the optimal total cholesterol is actually somewhere between 220 and 240, which a cardiologist would be horrified to hear because you have to be under
Depends
200.
on your cardiologist, but yes.
Yeah, exactly. We're talking about the traditional guys. So if somebody were to take PC and they're in that sweet spot, in that like perfect zone, which we would say would be the optimal, would that go down or do you think it would just kind of stay optimized?
Probably stay optimized. It's really looking at the optimal levels of the LDL, the HDL, all the other particle sizes as well.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of research. I mean, you can just go on Google Scholar or PubMed and look up phosphatidylcholine and cardiovascular health, and you'll find a lot of studies there.
So doctors in general, it would say when it comes to your cardiovascular markers or your cholesterol markers, it's not so much the number, but it's about the oxidation. Is the LDL oxidizing? And causing
Exactly.
problems.
Yeah.
So how does PC affect oxidation of a cell?
It's replacing it with a healthy non-oxidized form. That's exactly what's happening. So these oxidized oils and the oxidation that's happening in the body, it's going in and repairing that and replacing it with the new replenished healthy version.
Hmm.
And so it's a very similar thing when we talk about essential fatty acids and people say, "Oh no, I don't take omega-6." And it's like, "Well, you actually need the healthy omega-6s to push out the oxidized omega-6s."
Hmm.
And we've been doing this for 35 years, which is how we've seen it pretty consistently.
Incredible. So I'm thinking autophagy, when we think about the cellular cleanup and recycling process, what PC would do is not necessarily do that, or like mitophagy is a similar thing, but it would more just repair, not
Yeah.
recycle, just repair what's damaged. Like if there's holes, it will fill up those holes, kind of a
Go
thing.
in and fill them up. Exactly.
All right, cool. Yeah, I just wanted to get like kind of a visual. While we're on the track of cardiovascular health, I'm thinking about our 80-year-old self. We know cardiovascular disease is the number one killer for both men and women on the planet. So, what are maybe several things that we can do in midlife now to protect our future brain? I'm sorry, our future hearts and heart health in decades down the line?
I mean, I think there's many things. I think diet, like food is medicine, and treating diet and the foods that you put in your body and non-processed foods and whole foods is one of the most critical things we could possibly be doing. I think targeted supplementation and understanding what your personal risks are and working with somebody who has a more functional lens, looking at your cardiovascular health can be really, really helpful and insightful. And I think just making sure that you're supplementing with the right supplements for you.
And exercise too is probably a big one
Of
for
course,
our hearts.
exercise,
I would add that one in.
probably the most important.
Exercise is medicine. Is there any correlation between exercise and the phospholipids in your cell membranes?
Not that I've looked at, but I would imagine like people, I was on the phone with an extreme triathlete the other day, and the levels of inflammation, he takes a lot of our of PC, takes balance oil, and then he also takes our product Resolvin, which is a fish oil that has specialized pro-resolving mediators in it. It's what would kind of drive the inflammatory response. And so he's been super dosing on the Resolvin after these races because they just destroy their bodies. So I think at the extreme levels, yes, it's going to have an impact on oxidative stress. But in general, inflammation levels, no, you're not seeing that massively driven from exercise. I think we all know that exercise benefits outweigh any negatives.
When we come to the food, and I know that in Europe here, it's a little bit easier than in the US in avoiding those processed foods. I mean, they're around, but it just seems to be a lot harder in the US. Everybody struggles with this. Can you tell us, maybe even walk us through your day or what a healthy diet looks like for you in terms of protecting your menopausal self?
Yeah, I stay on the outside of the supermarket. I don't go on the inside layers. And it's fruits and vegetables and meats and fish. And I eat pretty seasonally. So I'm looking at purchasing what is going to my local farmers market as you would in when I lived in London. We always had the fruit stand and the vegetable stand and the fishmonger and the butcher. And you're able to get seasonal produce so much easier. But in the US, they make it definitely a little harder. And so looking for just those fresh fruits and vegetables and the produce, I think are really critical. My day, I always start with a little bit of protein first thing in the morning before I drink my coffee. I drink my coffee with raw cream and raw milk. And then I will eat a more full breakfast. I'll take my supplements after breakfast. Lunch, again, high protein vegetables, something that's seasonal. Right now, I'm loving eating any kind of shellfish and fish in the summer, anything I can get locally. I live at the beach, luckily, so I'm able to access a lot of that. And doing that type of meal for dinner is really where I find my optimal diet. And I eat, I would say, on the paleo side of things, but I'm not strict in any way with any specific diet.
So it sounds like you're eating home a lot.
I
You're
do.
cooking your own food. You're doing
I
your own
do.
shopping. I used to live in Hong Kong and I was health coaching back then. And you'd tell people like that and they'd be like, no. And then you say, oh, we'll make a cold
Wow.
smoothie on your run to work. Cold, forget it. Like,
Wow.
no. And so how would somebody navigate this who's just kind of high stress and got power job and doesn't have time to really cook? And I don't know. What do you say to somebody like that?
Take, for instance, yesterday, I had to order a salad for lunch. I didn't have time to make myself my own salad. So I ordered more of a high protein. I made sure I had feta, chicken, egg in the salad. I immediately threw out the salad dressing that came with it. I make my own salad dressing using cold pressed organic olive oil, our balance oil, a little bit of mustard, a little bit of apple cider vinegar, a little bit of honey. Makes an excellent salad dressing in seconds.
So you bring that
And
bag with you
no,
to
I
your
keep it
restaurant?
wherever I go. So I just make sure that I have in my refrigerator at my office
Oh, at
that,
your
or
office.
you can
Okay.
pre-make it. I'll make it on a Sunday and then it stays good for the entire week in the refrigerator. So you have that salad dressing to pull from. And then I always just make sure, I mean, in my bag right now, I have a couple soft-boiled eggs that I always keep with me. And I think when you do go out to a restaurant, just be cognizant that they are cooking these foods in not carefully treated oxidized vegetable oils. So if you can ask for something steamed or cooked in butter or something that's not deep fried, you're better off than eating the foods that are deep fried and breaded.
Yeah. That sounds like, yeah, my coaching days. It's like I did some of those tips as well because in Hong Kong, nobody eats at home. It's everybody's
Wow.
out all the time. And it's all possible. I have a blog article on how to hack it with some of the things that you mentioned and so much more. There are ways. You have to be a little uncomfortable.
Wow.
It's been around and it's possible.
And it's so
So,
much easier in Europe. I mean, in Europe, I feel like people are
yeah.
very accustomed to eating at home and making these big meals and sharing them with family.
Or going out is very easy. It's
Yeah.
usually, at least in Spain and Italy, France a little bit harder. They bring you your salad and then the olive oil and vinegar and salt and pepper on
Yeah.
the side. Like you dress your own salad kind of a
Yeah.
thing. And yeah, and then you always get grilled fish or grilled meats. It's just quite, yeah, always something. And it's much easier to go out, I think. Here, I mean, I haven't been in the States in years, so the last time I was there was kind of, yeah, like
You'd
all
be
over the
frightened at
place.
the portion sizes.
I always forget. Yeah. I always order if you get a starter and then after the starter in the US, I go, oh my God, I'm already full. What am I supposed to eat my main? And this is why you have doggy bags, right? And we
Exactly.
don't do doggy bags in Europe so much. So you kept mentioning this body PC, the phosphatidylcholine PC, whatever we want to call it. And it just sounds like a magic sauce. What's in this product?
BodyBio PC is a product that was developed in 2004. My grandfather took about 4 years to develop it. He created it after looking at the effects of the IV drugs, so that Plaque X that I mentioned, and some of the research that was happening about utilizing these IV drugs for detoxification. So he took about 4 years on R&D to create BodyBio PC. There are other PCs on the market. So you'll see Thorne has one and Designs for Health and Solgar. There are other ways to make it. What makes ours so special is that he figured out how to isolate these little phospholipids, these healthy fats that we've been talking about, and put them into a liposomal formula. And so when you take the product, it's going to make it through the digestive tract into your bloodstream for cellular delivery, which is what makes it so unique and different in the market. We've even started doing some work with the one of the leading mitochondrial research labs in the United States about the actual uptake into the cell. So we're getting images and we can see how these little phospholipids go in and replace the damaged ones in the cell membrane, which is really exciting. And it actually increases something called the zeta potential in the cell, making the cells more impactful and more they can perform their actions more. So body PYOPC is just these isolated phospholipids. It's derived from soy, but in the process that we derive the phospholipids and isolate them, the soy proteins are removed. So anyone who's concerned about estrogenic effects of soy or allergenic effects of soy, we remove those proteins that are estrogenic.
Oh, wow. So there's a whole process going through
Oh yeah.
there.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
Body Bio in general is a brand. You said your grandfather started this in the 80s,
90s, yeah. Yeah.
90s. Honestly, this has been around for, this is not a new brand.
No.
And I'm wondering, why haven't I heard about it before? I'm dumbfounded because I grew up all over the world, but I did spend some time in the US. And how was it? Maybe, I think it was maybe more clinician focused
It
brand.
was.
And
Exactly. Yeah,
how
we
did,
only sold to doctors until 2018.
really?
Yeah.
Oh,
So
wow.
when my husband got involved, he said, we're entering a time where people are taking their health into their own hands. This is before all of these podcasts. This is back when maybe there was a handful of books that were written about health and biohacking. And we were seeing this shift. You saw the shift of social media and the way that education is being disseminated. And so we were really at the forefront of saying, you know what, let's launch direct to consumer and let's start just to build our following and just educate. And it takes time. It takes time to reach even the outer skirts of the biohackers. So while we might have the most extreme, it's getting it out there in that target of demographic and building it through various different education channels.
Why was it a clinician focused brand only for so many years?
I think that was just what they were comfortable in. My grandfather, you would sit with my grandfather for 4 hours, and I would say to him, "What is phosphatidylcholine?" And for 4 hours, I did not get an answer. Just so intense. Like, let me pull up this presentation and looking at all these slides. And these are slides that he's giving to biochemists and researchers and lipidologists. It would just go way over anyone's head. So I think to some extent, MDs were probably the only people that could understand it.
Mm.
And those MDs that were on the more kind of functional and integrative minded, it was a very small community of people in the early 2000s. They grew from going to these conferences where Thorne started and Metagenics started and Zymogen started and some of these larger companies. They all knew each other. And then they just kind of went into each of their individual niches. And my grandfather's niche was pretty specific with the cell membrane. So it took a little bit more biochemical understanding to really relate to it.
But now we have internet and we could do a lot of research
Yes.
ourselves. Like you said, we're taking our health in our own hands and we could decipher things and try to figure it out. And obviously, I'm talking to anybody's listening now, talk to your doctor before you take any supplements. Or we don't know what your situation is, but you're absolutely right. I'm so glad it actually is in the market. I'm super excited to try them. Can't believe I haven't got my hands on it, but I have heard so many of my friends love the product. So I was like, okay, I've got to understand a little bit more what it is that you do. And you mentioned something called balance oil as well as being one of these foundational pieces. What is that?
It's fabulous. It's just a cold pressed, organic, very carefully treated, non-oxidized omega 6 and 3. So it's those essential fatty acids that we don't make them in our body. We have to get them from our diet. And it's such a great form. So it's the one that I use for salad dressings. If you're making that morning smoothie, pour some into your morning smoothie. It helps to make things really creamy and has a very subtle flavor. Not like an olive oil, a little like less intense than an olive oil.
It's not fishy.
No, not at all.
Doesn't
It
it?
doesn't have DHA or EPA. So it has ALA, which is the form that you get from sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds, things like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like good seed oils.
It's literally good seed oils.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's so interesting. I saw also you had something for menopause, or I'm not sure if it was hormone balancing product or was it?
Probably GLA, which is evening primrose oil.
Yeah, yeah. That's what
Yeah.
I was
So
thinking.
that falls under that omega 6 pathway. It's gamma linoleic acid just falls under linoleic acid, and it's a downstream metabolite that we do not produce enough of. And since we're avoiding omega 6, we're not actually making enough of it in the body. And so evening primrose oil is a wonderful way. Most of the evening primrose oil in the market's actually cut with something called borage oil, and ours is 100% organic evening primrose oil.
Oh, wow.
So it's
Incredible.
a great source. And I think it's just really important for endocrine function, adrenal glands, your ovaries, your thyroid function, all of these things.
It's so good to hear that you've been around for so long because there's just the supplements that are on the market are there's so many horror stories of what happens behind closed doors.
Yeah.
And after testing, you find out that maybe it's not what's in there. And that's why anytime we talk about supplements, at least on the podcast, I vet for it and I make sure that they've been around for a while and or at least that they have very good testing
Oh, yeah.
and just checks and balances. I always like to recommend, tell people do not buy your supplements on Amazon. Get you can if it's the brand, it's so tempting actually. I've done it myself where I'm like, I can't wait another day. I need it like today. And then
Sure.
you order stuff and then you just go, yeah, that was not a good move. So the Body Bio can be bought anywhere around the world, right? Or
It
you
can. And actually, this is the world that we live in now. We're actually going to be launching our European labels through Amazon. So don't be afraid. Just make sure when you purchase it, you're purchasing it direct from BodyBio. But their fulfillment capabilities just outweigh anything that we could possibly do internally. One
yeah.
of the things I want to comment on that quality control check is most supplements are not actually manufactured by the company that you're purchasing them from. They're manufactured at something called a contract manufacturer. And the contract manufacturer is the one that has the quality control regulations and department, and that the FDA goes in and audits each of those departments in the quality control. We actually have that whole piece internally. So we manufacture and we have our quality control both in-house, and then we send every single batch out for third-party testing to confirm exactly what is in the bottle, is exactly what our quality control department says, is exactly what their quality control department says. So there's 3 checks that we do, which is unfortunately it's not the regulation and it costs us a lot of money, but it allows us to make sure if anything ever gets flagged, we say, nope, that's not getting released.
Very good. It reminds me, I was looking for 1-MNA to supplement, and you don't have that, right?
No.
So I'm in Europe, and I'm like, I don't know where the only thing that popped up was Amazon. And I go, oh no, I don't want to do this. So I call a company and I say, I found your product on Amazon. Is it you? And they said, yes, don't
Yes.
worry. It's absolutely safe. It's us. And that's why I recommend to people, if you are going to do something like that, I had no choice. I was like, what am I going to do? But I don't want to buy it on Amazon. So you just call the company.
Yeah, absolutely. And they'll tell you because we have to shut down fraudulent resellers, I'd say every day,
What?
all over the world.
You're kidding
Oh
me.
yeah. If you go on eBay and look up BodyBio, you'll see some hilarious labels. Like they don't even do the label exactly. I mean, it's crazy. Like even the language translation will be completely off. You can tell when it's fake.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Okay. I would still say, yeah, wherever you find it online, either if you buy BodyBio directly from you and your website,
Yes,
number one. Now, if you cannot, like people in Europe, right, then
exactly.
yeah, we got to make sure, like, how do we know if on Amazon, what if somebody copies you and then they go, well,
Pretty quick to shut them down, but we also have bodybio.co.uk and you can purchase any country from our UK website. The distribution's out of Northern Ireland, so they ship everywhere.
usually what I would see in, if you are on Amazon, if you have a shop, let's say there would be the BodyBio
As the
shop
seller.
as a seller. And then you
Yeah.
generally know that
So
it's
if you see the seller as like Sneaker World, don't purchase it from Sneaker World.
absolutely crazy. Oh my gosh, I'm going to have to let you go, but I still have a few questions. And 'cause now we've gone down the rabbit hole of fraudulent supplements. Is there anything, what would you be the couple of great tips for us to know in terms of how to buy a genuine supplement? Like what should we be looking for? What should somebody come to you and your company and say, I want these 3 questions answered?
And make sure that they do third-party testing. I think that's critically important. There are some companies like Now Foods that are doing a great job in spearheading transparency and testing. So I think that's a really big one. For me, I like to stick to some of the more niche companies that are like staying in their lane. They don't make every supplement under the sun for everything. And then just really take a look at the ingredients. Flip over to the ingredients label and just make sure that you're not adding too many things. There are some things that need to be added for certain supplements to make it through different machines, right? Let's say that you see microcrystalline cellulose in the capsule. That's what the capsule's made out of. You can't avoid that. Or silicone dioxide, aka silica. That is so that the powdery products don't get stuck in the machine and they can actually get into the encapsulation. But just if there's a list of like 20 things that you can barely pronounce, maybe look for a different variation of that supplement.
What do you think of magnesium stearate as an,
Magnesium is an interesting little world. And there are cheaper forms of magnesium and there are better forms of magnesium. So the glycinate, the bisglycinate, there's one other that I really like. I'm trying right now a product called Triple Mag by Vital Nutrients that I like a lot.
no, but it's the stearate, I think it's magnesium stearate.
Oh, is one of the added
And it's like a
ingredients.
filler in the capsules.
I personally prefer actually rice flour. I think it's less highly processed.
Yeah, because somebody was telling me if your supplement, like look into bottle, if you just only have a couple supplements, not a big deal. But if you're a supplement junkie like me and you're taking tons of supplements, then
Kind of like stevia, right? If you're taking a ton of things with stevia in them, it might have an effect on your hormones. You don't want too much of these things.
yeah. So yes, and I think it was something to do with the oxidizing, or I don't remember
Could be.
exactly, but I thought I'd ask you. But
Could
yeah,
be.
there's certain things I think we need to when you are taking so many supplements to be mindful of
Yeah.
actually what's in it. And Body Bio PC, is it called Body PC or Body Bio
Body
PC?
bio.
Body Bio PC. Then is that a liquid?
Yeah, it comes in liquid and a soft gel. The soft gel is gelatin, so that is not vegan or vegetarian, but the liquid is.
Okay. Okay. I love taking liquid forms of things
I
rather
actually
than
have it.
taking
I have it
pills.
right here.
See
I
it.
usually will take it, so I take it straight out of the bottle, but you'll see it's kind of like a molasses texture, almost like a
Oh,
honey.
interesting.
And so I will actually just take it straight out of the bottle and just sip some water afterwards.
And what
One
is
of
it?
the interesting little tricks that we found is if you put 1 ounce of water in a glass cup and then you pour the PC in, it's completely hydrophobic. So you'll see it will separate from the water and then you can kind of swirl it up and just take it as a shot. And you won't even realize you're taking it.
What does it taste like?
It kind of has a little bit of the molasses. It's an interesting taste. Some people love it, some people don't care for it. I don't mind it. For me, I'm so used to it. I just kind of I take it as a shot every day.
As a supplement formulator, I guess, or company, what are your thoughts on gummies?
No. I don't think you can get enough of the active ingredients into that form. I will say never. Like there are some companies doing a better version. I just think if you're an adult, like just take the real supplement. If you're looking for like a kid supplement, look for one that has maybe lower levels of some of the sugars that they have to add. But we did try to make BodyBio PC into a gummy and to get an ample dose, no, this would have been for children, to get the dose in was really hard. I'm actually looking at like how we could potentially make it like a gusher. Remember those gushers from like the
Oh
90s?
yeah. Oh
Yes.
God, I love those.
How we could potentially do that for children.
That would be really fun,
Yeah.
actually. Yeah, especially if it doesn't taste bad. I mean, if it tastes like molasses or something, you kind of go, well, it could
That's
be.
the problem. Like anytime you have to work on the flavor profile, which is just part of our kind of innovation mission, is we don't add things that add flavorings and the
Yeah.
stevias
Yeah.
and the sugar alcohols. And it's just not our thing. Many companies, it is their thing and they want to, and they're probably making a lot more money than Body Bio is. But for us, it's just important to produce really like tried and true products that are not, don't have a lot of fluff in them.
I love it. Well, I'm excited to get my bottle of PC. You've got so many amazing products that I'm super
Yeah.
excited to try, and I can't wait for your European, at least the
Yeah, me
labels
too.
to come out so we can go get them here in Europe. But are there any non-negotiables in your daily health stack?
Oh God, as a mom of three, yeah, coffee. It's non-negotiable.
That thing
I
that comes to mind. Yeah.
Oh, that is my honest answer. Yes. I mean, PC is my non-negotiable. I take 2 capsules of butyrate every day. That's really a non-negotiable for me for metabolic health. And minerals. I think minerals are so undervalued and making sure we're getting enough minerals. I like to call minerals self food, right? They're so important for every function in our body and all the biochemical processes. So making sure you're getting enough of the electrolytes and the trace minerals. I add them to my water every morning and I drink like a huge glass of water with lemon with them.
But you need the PC to get the foundation and get those cells open and flexible and
And
nice
use and utilizing those minerals,
and
right?
use to
There's
use the minerals. Right.
exactly.
I'm super excited. This is so cool. So, are there any things that you'd like to leave us with before I let you go? That's something that a menopausal woman should know about her cellular health.
I think let's reverse this low fat nonsense, right? Start drinking the fats, eating the eggs. Don't be afraid of your egg yolks. If you can't eat egg yolks and you're only eating egg whites because you cannot digest them, look into the health of your gallbladder and your liver. Make sure bile flow is actually working and you're able to absorb and break down those fats. Because if you experience pain after you eat an egg, it's because of your gallbladder. So then there's things that you can do for that. Two of my little hacks I'll leave you with. One's called TUDCA. One is called Premier Research Formulas Gallbladder ND. Those products changed my life. And make sure that you're able to get in the healthy fats. Don't be afraid of fat. I think that's such a critically important note to leave menopausal women.
And if you don't have a gallbladder or you have,
Then you need bile support. So if you've had your gallbladder removed, you still need to be taking ox bile and TUDCA to digest those fats and make sure you're assimilating them into the body because now you don't have the organ that was storing all the bile. Yeah.
super interesting. Love it. Okay.
I lecture my mom about this all the time because she had her gallbladder removed.
Oh, really? Okay. I'm going to have links to all those, everything you mentioned in the show
Absolutely.
notes. If anybody has questions or wants to know, or what's TUDCA? I know there's a whole
Oh,
episode I can direct you to,
oh
but
yeah.
And it's amazing. So I will leave you with that. Thank you so much, Jessica, for your time. I really appreciate it. You're so knowledgeable. And now I'm so much more conscious about my cellular membranes.
Something you didn't think you would ever be conscious of, I'm sure.
Yeah. So have a wonderful day. Thanks everyone who reached the end of this episode. And Jessica, I hope to see you again.
Thank you so much.